All glory is to the Son of God. All glory is to the Son of God. We have been reading Bhagavad Gita, and we have come to the second chapter, down to text 54. Who would like to summarize Bhagavad Gita up to this point? Okay, I will summarize Bhagavad Gita up to this point. That Arjuna was facing a dilemma. It was his duty to fight, and Krishna was personally present there, driving his chariot and telling him to fight. But after seeing the opposing soldiers, which included his cousin brothers, his guru, his grandfather, and so many other relatives, he became overwhelmed by feelings of compassion. And he told Krishna, I will not fight. So this is called a dilemma, when one is supposed to do something, but then doesn't want to do it, or for some reason cannot do it, but must do it, and it's a dilemma. In American education, they call it stuck on the horns of the dilemma. Just like a bull has two horns. If that bull is angry with you and charges at you, and you are caught in the bull's horns, so it is like that. Arjuna must fight, but he cannot fight. Does not want to fight. But still he surrendered to Krishna because he said, now I am confused. I am confused about my duty, and I have lost all my composure. Arjuna was, after all, a great personality. Great personality is supposed to remain fixed in his position, not just fall apart. Just like suppose there is some national crisis and Obama comes on the television, and then if he says, oh, I'm not going to be president, I don't want to talk about this, then that's not befitting his position. A great personality is supposed to remain strong and undisturbed in his execution of his duty. So Arjuna said, I am now confused and I've lost all my composure. He's crying, his bow has slipped from his hand. So in this state, he told Krishna, I'm now surrendering to you. Please instruct me. So Krishna is the original spiritual master of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna is the original student. One has to learn Bhagavad Gita by approaching a bona fide spiritual master. That'll be explained later. Krishna says, if you want to know the truth, then you must approach someone who has seen the truth. And then how to approach that person who has seen the truth, there are three words. Pranipad, Pariprashna, and Seva. One has to approach spiritual master very submissively. One must have inquiries. What is the use of approaching the Guru to learn the truth? You have no inquisitiveness to understand what is the truth. And then Seva, one must be willing to render service to the spiritual master. So Arjuna surrendered himself to Krishna and became his disciple. And the first thing Krishna did was chastise Arjuna, because in the first chapter Arjuna gave some reasons why he didn't want to fight. If we kill all of these heads of the family, these men, then all the family traditions and their religious principles will go to hell. Without the strong man leading the family, the women will become misguided. There will be unwanted children, and the unwanted children will create a hell in society. And how can I fight with arrows, Bhishma and Drona, my grandfather and my guru? They are worthy of my worship. I should give them a flower garland, not arrows. Arjuna addressed Krishna, Arisudana, you are the killer of your enemies, but you are not the killer of your guru and your grandfather. You are not known as the killer of your guru Sandipani Muni and your grandfather Ugrasena. So Arjuna gave many arguments, but in the beginning, Krishna, first thing Krishna said, chastised Arjuna, that while speaking very high words, like you're a great philosopher, you are lamenting for that which is not worthy of lamenting. Those who are actually pandit, those who are actually wise, never lament for any condition of the body, whether living or dead. So, we must also keep in mind that Arjuna had two worries in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. He was afraid of two things. One thing, he was afraid that after, even if he came out victorious and killed all the Kauravas, grandfather Bhishma, Dronacharya, and all the others, even if he killed them all and I become the king, what happiness is there? Because all the people I wanted to enjoy life with, I killed. So that is one thing Arjuna was thinking, I'll not be happy in this way. And second thing he thought is by killing all these people, very sinful. These are very sinful acts. As a result, I will have to reside in hell for a very long time. So he was afraid of bad karma. So Krishna chastised Arjuna that you are lamenting, thinking you are killing these people. And then Krishna explained Atma Gyan, that actually the self cannot be killed. The self is different from the body. That what we consider death is just the destruction of the external body. But the actual person continues to exist. That person cannot be cut by any weapon or burnt by fire. He's eternal. There's only the body which is slain. So, very important sloka, second chapter, text 13. Krishna's explained that just as we are all changing our bodies in this lifetime, from childhood to youth to old age, similarly, at the time of death, we will simply change to another body. And those who are dhira, those who are sober-minded persons, they are not bewildered by this change. Generally, people are very bewildered by death. Oh, my wife, my husband, my father, my mother has died. But one who is dhira knows that it is simply a change of body. No one is ever destroyed. So up until the 39th verse, Krishna's convincing Arjuna by various arguments that the soul or the self can never be killed. It is eternal, undying, original, unchanging. So then in 39, Krishna said, thus far I have described Sankhya, which is the analytical study to understand the difference between the self and the body, or matter and spirit. And then he says, now I will speak about Buddhi Yoga. Now I will speak about yoga, which is the means whereby one can get freed from karma, reactions of karma. So these verses we read describing something about yoga and again, the second chapter is called Contents of the Gita Summarized. It is not in a ordered way presented, but it is a little of so many things, just giving a preview of what Krishna will speak about in the later chapters. So Krishna has indicated that someone who is actually a yogi, he becomes situated on a platform, a transcendental platform, whereby he is unaffected by the dualities of material existence. And he is also freed from the reactions of his good and bad works. So there is a transcendental state of existence which one attains, the perfection of which is called samadhi, or mind fully absorbed in transcendence. So the previous verse, the last verse we read, Krishna said, when your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. What are the flowery words of the Vedas? What does this mean? Pushpitam bhajam in the previous verse. What are the flowery words of the Vedas? Nobody?
Do this thing, and you will get that, do this thing.
Yeah, the flowery words that is... Yeah, the Vedas, aside from transcendental realization, there are vast portions, and mostly it deals with worship of different demigods or devas for elevation to Svarga. So this is the enticement of the Vedas, that if you do this, perform this sacrifice, perform this vow, this yajna, this vrata, this. After death, you can attain to Svarga. There you can live for a very long time in the Indraloka. You can enjoy in the Nandana garden, Nandana garden. You can have the association of the beautiful apsaras and so many things. So these are called the flowery words because flowers are very attractive, very pretty. So these promises are very attractive for materialistic persons. Material life means bhogaishvarya prasakdanam, to enjoy wealth and bodily enjoyment. This is material life. So previously Krishna said those who are too attached to bhogaishvarya, then the resolute determination to become liberated from material existence will never take place. So at this point Arjuna is now asking a question because Krishna's explained, you are not the body. You are the eternal self. There is processes of yoga whereby you can transcend the actions and reactions of material existence and come to the liberated platform. Now Arjuna is asking, Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk?" So Krishna is talking about the yogi who is situated above this world. So Arjuna wants to know, well, how will I know such a person? What are his symptoms? How can I recognize such a person? So in the purport, Prabhupada explains that every man, every kind of person has his particular symptoms. A rich man, he has his qualities. A learned man has his qualities. So Krishna says, the Supreme Personality of God has said, "O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind thus purified finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness." So the symptom of someone who is transcendentally situated is that he no longer has any material desire. He no longer pursues any material desire. He's no longer interested in making the body comfortable or pleased or attaining some position in this world, fame or recognition. Instead, his mind is fully absorbed in the self within. So Krishna goes on, "One who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind." So we have to gradually understand is how is the mind absorbed in a superior or transcendental way, so absorbed that one no longer cares for the conditions of the body and the material atmosphere. That has to be gradually understood. But here we can at least understand that there is such a condition. First, mostly there is a negative understanding of how a person is situated. Just like, for example, Srila Prabhupada, he came to America from India at the age of 70. He had only a few suitcases of books, no money, and he began by chanting Hare Krishna and reading from BhagavadGita. But soon he attracted many followers. And why is that? If you speak to any of his disciples, they will tell you that just his presence convinced one that he was not a person of this world, that his consciousness or his mind was absorbed in a different field of activities, not in the everyday considerations like we are. So how Srila Prabhupada was absorbed in Krishna consciousness, that no one could understand. But everyone could understand that he was detached from material existence. Everyone could see that he never endeavored to earn money. He was happy to live anywhere, just to lay on the floor and sleep, just a place to sit and do his writing work. He didn't require anything more than the bare necessities of life. He didn't try to elevate his own ego, talking about himself, and I did this, or I am this, I am great, I am God. He never talked about himself, he simply talked about BhagavadGita, which describes the condition of ourselves, the conditioned souls in material life. the Supreme, what is this world, what is the self, and what is the process of disentangling oneself from material existence. Prabhupada didn't speak on BhagavadGita and then open a newspaper to read it, or turn on the television, or go out to a restaurant or movie. Or even when he was talking to somebody, he would never just talk, oh, this, that. Especially after the International Society for Krishna Consciousness was established, he was continually surrounded by his disciples for 12 years. And in those 12 years, his disciples saw that never for one moment did he deviate from Krishna consciousness. He was talking. That is asked by Arjuna in 54, how does he speak and what is his language? So that was seen that Prabhupada is speaking about everything in relationship to Krishna consciousness, nothing in forgetfulness of Krishna. So we could not see what was his inner consciousness, how he was situated in transcendence. But we could see how he was detached from ordinary material life, in a way that no one else could be. So it'll be explained after a few verses that unless one has a higher taste, it is not possible to give up the lower taste of material life. So here in 56, Krishna says, one who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries. Does anyone know what the threefold miseries are? Tapatraya. There's three kinds of miseries. Maybe I talked about this once. Well, that's a misery for sure. But they're called Adhyatmika Klesha, Adibhautika Klesha, Adidaivika Klesha. I don't remember where, but somewhere I talked about this, but I'll talk about it again. That Vedic knowledge is so nice that if you just read these books carefully, you can understand things in such a way that you could never understand even if you went to college your whole life and got 100 degrees. For example, if you went to a very learned philosophy professor or anyone in the university and said, you know, there's so many miseries in life. How would you categorize these? Could they be categorized in any way? He would think, well, there's so many miseries, it's really, I cannot say. But you ask even any devotee who's read these books, they'll immediately have the answer. There's three classes of miseries. And it makes good sense. First of all, there's miseries pertaining to the body and mind. I have a stomach ache, I have a headache, and, my knees are painful, bodily pains. And then there's mental pains. My God, my girlfriend, I saw her talking to some other guy so friendly way. It's also another misery, mental pain. So this is called Adhyatmika Klesha, miseries of the body and mind. Then there's Adibhautika Klesha. Other living entities give us trouble. Somebody's talking bad behind my back. Or somebody's telling the boss how bad I am at work. Or a dog is barking, threatening to bite me. Mosquito biting me. These are miseries caused by other living beings. And then there's miseries caused by nature or by the devas who control nature. So hot, so much snow, tornado. So these are the three kinds of miseries. But here it is said that when one's mind is absorbed in transcendence, he's not disturbed even amidst the threefold miseries. And 58. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. There are many nice analogies, especially in the second chapter here and elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita. So here the self-realized soul is compared to a tortoise. When danger comes, the tortoise withdraws his limbs and his head within the shell to protect himself. Then when he wants, he can bring his limbs out and walk. So the idea here is that one who is a perfectly self-realized soul, he's a master of the senses. In Sanskrit, senses are called go. And a master of the senses is called Goswami. And one who cannot control the senses is called Godas. Das means servant. So in material life, we are all servants of the senses. I may be sitting, studying, but then in my mind it comes, oh, I would like to eat something tasty. I'm not really hungry. But in my mind, oh, I'd like to eat some ice cream or something. And then my tongue and my stomach is crying out to me, eat. I'm trying to study. Okay, and I get up and I go and I get ice cream and I eat. That's called Godas, servant of the senses. Senses are dictating the master, and I am obeying. Yes, sir, and I go get it. But one who is a master of the senses, he controls his senses and utilizes his senses not according to their demands, but according to his service in Krishna consciousness or in his yoga practice. Though the embodied, 59, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So there are many persons who practice yoga, and this especially refers to the impersonalists, who perform tapasya, austerity, try and realize Brahman. They restrict themselves. They don't allow their senses any engagement unnecessary. But as explained here, if you just try to sit and negate sensual activities, still within yourself the taste for that sense enjoyment will remain. You're sitting, many persons, they may practice some kind of meditation, yoga, sitting silently thinking, I am God, or trying to, I am Brahman. Then they're thinking, oh, well, you can imagine yourself what that oh might be, different for different persons. So, but it says here, if one can have a higher taste, so what is especially mentioned here, and I'll first read text 60. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Then he says, one who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So, Here, Krishna is only hinting at what that higher taste is, or how one can be satisfied on a platform above material life or sense gratification. Krishna says, who fixes his mind on me. This will be more clearly explained in the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. The Prabhupada has explained the essence of Bhagavad Gita is in the middle 6 chapters. And the first 6 and last 6 are kind of like coverings to the book. So, in the purport of text 60, Srila Prabhupada explains the essence of what is sensual, the attachment for sense enjoyment, and how a person can be transcendently situated so that he is no longer attracted to that. I will just read that a bit. Purport to text 60. There are many learned sages, philosophers, and transcendentalists who try to conquer the senses, but in spite of their endeavors, even the greatest of them sometimes fall victim to material sense enjoyment due to the agitated mind. Even Vishvamitra, a great sage and perfect yogi, was misled by Menaka into sex enjoyment, although the yogi was endeavoring for sense control and severe types of penance and yoga practice. And of course, there are so many similar instances in the history of the world. Therefore, it is very difficult to control the mind and senses without being fully Krishna conscious. Without engaging the mind in Krishna, one cannot cease such material engagements. A practical example is given by Sri Yamunacharya, a great saint and devotee, who says, since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, I have been enjoying an ever new transcendental humor. Whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face turns from it, and I spit at the thought. So Yamunacharya Prabhupada explained as a great king. He's a king. So he had all facilities for all kinds of material enjoyment. Then he became a self-realized devotee, fully self-realized devotee, fully in Krishna consciousness, God consciousness. And then after attaining that perfected state, he wrote this and other slokas, where he says that when now, in my Krishna consciousness, I'm getting newer and newer pleasure at every moment. I'm getting a transcendental pleasure. If we go back to 59, we see how the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment. The taste for sense objects remains, but ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So that is Yamunacharya. He is fixed in a higher taste. He says, I'm in my Krishna consciousness, I'm receiving a transcendental pleasure which is newer and newer at every moment. And when I think of my former life as a king and my association with women, and I spit at the thought. So of course this is the perfected stage, not to be imitated or not so easily attainable. So 61 again. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So that is the practice in the Krishna consciousness movement. The temples or ashrams are established just so persons can come and engage themselves 24 hours a day in activities of Krishna consciousness without having to divert their minds to the material necessities, bringing that to a minimum. That devotees, they get up and attend Mangalarati, they sit down and chant japa of Hare Krishna for 2 hours. They take Krishna Prasad. They arrange programs throughout the day. For any guest who comes, they explain about Krishna consciousness. In this way, their minds are always absorbed. So how the mind can be absorbed in Krishna, Prabhupada, in the purport to text 61, he quotes verses from Srimad Bhagavatam about Maharaj Ambarish. King Ambarish fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. It may be difficult to understand in the beginning, but just like as a man might have fixed his mind on the lotus-like face of his beautiful wife, so a pure devotee fixes his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. King Ambarish fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotee, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy places where his temple is situated, his hand in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him fit to become a Matpara devotee of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada quotes another Acharya, Baladev Vidyabhushana, who said that the senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. What is the time now? 8:05. So, next, Krishna nicely explains step by step how one becomes entangled or even lost by not being able to control the senses. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So the first stage is while contemplating the objects of the senses. So that is why advertising is there. So many billboards or on the television or newspaper everywhere, advertisements, because it's to draw your eyes and your mind to that. If you contemplate that, then attachment develops. First, you contemplate something, then, I like that, I want that. Then when this increases, lust develops, I must have it. Of course, there are so many sense objects, but the principal sense object is the attraction between man and woman, boy and girl. And I don't know if it is here in BhagavadGita, but originally it was there. There's a painting by the artist illustrating these two verses. Maybe this version doesn't have any pictures. Not that picture. Yeah. No. No, I think they've taken that one out. So the strongest attachment is the attachment between male and female. So the pictures, don't have the pictures anymore, but I'll kind of paint the picture. While contemplating the objects of the senses. So it shows a man, he's looking at a beautiful girl, contemplating the objects of the senses. Then it shows he's developing attachment, and then lust. Then he's going to embrace that girl. But then somehow or other, for some reason, he cannot have her. And then there's anger. This happens many times, especially in India. I lived in India so many years. But especially in India, it happens. Boy will be interested in some girl, but that girl will say, no, no, no. Then he's become so contemplating, then attached, and so lust, so strong. And then if she says no, he becomes mad, angry, and he throws acid in her face. You've seen stories like that? Only in India? Well, I'm sure there's stories all over the world. There's many stories. So that shows that when lust is not satisfied, the result is anger. Then when one becomes angry, what happens? From anger, there is delusion. Samoha. And bewilderment of memory. So this is practically seen that Prabhupada gave the example. He knew that even two brothers, they had some fight, and then the anger became so strong, one brother killed the other brother. So when anger becomes strong, one forgets even, this is my brother. Bewilderment of memory. So when memory is bewildered, you cannot even remember who is your brother or who is your whatever. It means intelligence is lost. When there's no more intelligence, then that means discrimination, no more discriminatory power. One falls down, down, deeper into the darkness of material existence. Then 64, Krishna says, but a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. Then 66, one who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So I'll ask, is there any questions? Prabhupada gave the example of a glass. If you fill the glass with milk, there's no room for, say, ink to be poured in. Of course, you could pour and you would mix them, but the example is there that if our life is full, like a glass full of milk, if our life is full of Krishna conscious activities, then there's no place for material consciousness. But naturally, if the glass is half full or only has a little milk, then there's so much place. Because the nature of the soul is to be always active. We're always active. We're doing something and thinking something at every minute. If we're not doing something in Krishna consciousness or thinking something in relation to Krishna, then we must be doing something or thinking something in relation to the external. So I just want to backtrack a little bit. In the beginning, Arjuna asked a question that what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? And Krishna said, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So self, that will be explained later more, there's the self, and then there's the Supreme Self, or Krishna. There's Atma and Paramatma. So being satisfied in the self means being satisfied in the self in relationship with the Supreme. So actually it is explained in many ways that real happiness is within. The one who is not able to find happiness within will never be satisfied in the attempt to find happiness from without. Generally, material life means to try to find happiness in external objects. We want to arrange our external world in such a way, now I feel happy. But actually, we're never happy with this, and we're always in anxiety because although we may arrange things, still, material nature is always changing. It's very difficult to keep things in a steady way. So, it is said in another text called Vedanta Sutra, Anandamaya Vyasa. Actually, the nature of the self is Anandamaya. We are by nature happy or blissful. It is only due to the covering of matter that we are otherwise. So those who are great yogis in devotion, they're actually able to find unlimited happiness within. But as long as we are still attracted to the external, then of course it will elude us. So the yoga practice for this age, which is especially recommended, is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra as japa. We recommend everyone have these japa mala and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. In this way, the mind can easily become absorbed in Krishna. Any questions?
Can we stop the sense internally performed by the mind thinking? Can we stop that one?
Well, according to Bhagavad Gita, we can stop it if we are master of the senses, which is possible if we experience a higher taste. In other words, if we are satisfied to see the beauty of Krishna, then we don't need to see the beauty of the things of this world. We know it is possible because Prabhupada showed that it was possible.
Engagement,
Hmm?
mind engagement somewhere.
Sadhaimana Krishna Padara Vindaya. Fix your mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. Just keep the mind always engaged. Sometimes chanting, sometimes reading Bhagavad Gita, sometimes discussing Srimad Bhagavatam with other devotees, or doing your practical service. Of course, the truth is, it is very difficult unless one has the association of a advanced devotee who's already on that platform. If you have the association of a pure devotee, then it is possible. Without that association, it is very difficult. That's why when Prabhupada was here, by his presence, devotees did very wonderful things. Pardon?
Sacrificial. Sacrificing all the other concepts and philosophies of the Vedas, such as if by nature we are happy, giving up on those senses, without sacrificial.
Yes, it's a kind of sacrifice, of course. But it is explained in that text 59 that when you experience a higher taste, then actually it's not a sacrifice. Just like suppose a hog, pig, of course here you don't see, but many places in India, by the side of the road you can see the hogs, pigs. They're wallowing in the mud and eating stool. So if you ask the hog or pig, give that up. You cannot give it up. But in higher consciousness, we can give up that kind of life. Because for us it is obnoxious. So for the hog it would be a great sacrifice, too great to perform. But for us, it would not even be considered a sacrifice. So it is something like that. It just depends on the level of consciousness.
So the same senses can be satisfied at that level.
Yeah, the Krishna consciousness never advocates negation of the senses. It just recommends utilizing the senses in Krishna's service. Any question more? Okay, Hare Krishna.
Yes.